Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Black Woman podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. She is the author of our Teaching Abroad Guide in our Diary of a Traveling Black Woman series. Her name is Miss Tori McNealy and she has been around the world, y'all. And I am so happy to have her with me today. And before I even let her introduce herself, let me tell y'all how we met in the first place. I used to be Tori's co-teacher. So I taught special ed. We both taught at a charter school in one of the roughest, toughest places in Atlanta. And I loved going into her classroom because she was just, that teacher that was just like, patient with the kids. And we had some kids, y'all, but she was very patient. I never felt like she was hovering over me because, as a co-teacher, you're a special education teacher. You're coming in to maybe work with one or two kids. But generally, the teacher is kind of like, really protective over their classroom. So they're kind of looking at you like, what you over there doing with that kid? And it's like, yo, leave me alone. Like, I know what I'm doing. And Tori always left me alone. Like, I'll come in. She's like, that is one of my favorite memories of you. And then you came over to kindergarten. So you were in my little like
Mhm.
area. So that was fun. So, and I remember you reaching out and asking me about teaching abroad. And I don't even remember all of our conversation. I just remember I saw you on Facebook, probably the next year or the year after that with some suitcases and you were out.
Correct. Yep.
So, Tori, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Yeah. So I'm Tori. I've been teaching probably about 10 years. I am currently not teaching right now. Well, technically teaching privately in a private household, but taught in the US and abroad for about 10 years. Yeah, it's been a journey. I've taught from kindergarten to third grade and also grade 6 to 8, taught in the US, UAE, and Nigeria. So all vastly different places, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as I left the States and started teaching, that also opened my world up to traveling. I think I've been to about 34, 35 countries so far. So
Nice.
that's been exciting as well. And yeah, so I'm still technically working with children, teaching, traveling, all the things.
I love that. I love that. So tell me, what was the very first thing that said, you know what? I've had enough of teaching here in the United States. I want to go abroad.
Okay, for me, I think it's because the school that I worked at with you, I was really
Hmm.
enticed by the family-sized classrooms. I was also told it was supposed to be this like theme charter school, and I was just coming from a school that was working on getting their STEM certification. And so I was
Hmm.
used to the engineering design process and everything, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great." But it didn't feel as great as I hoped. It did not match my expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really wanted to experience more. Like, I felt like I kind of knew what type of teacher I wanted to be, but my years of working in the States, it wasn't it. It just wasn't it.
Yeah.
Students were like over tested. Curriculum just wasn't really thought out to the kids that were actually present in your classroom and being
Hmm.
attentive to their needs. I don't feel like it was a holistic view of the child, period. So
Right.
and also just working as a teacher, tired of working late and outside of my contract hours and on a single income, living paycheck to paycheck, also working
Hmm.
more than one job outside of my full job of teaching. And I was like, there has to be more, right? I just didn't want to I wasn't ready to just like survive. I wanted to actually live and to thrive and to really fall back in love with teaching because I started falling out of love with teaching. So yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah, you know what? And I fell all the way out of teaching, all the way out of love with teaching. So I know exactly what you mean. But you know what? That period of time where I did go abroad and teach in Abu Dhabi, it did spark something a little bit. If I don't even know if spark is
Exactly.
a word, but it did spark something back a little bit. Came back to the US and I was like, yeah, I tried different places. The school that we were at, I went down the street and
Mhm.
worked at another school that was similar. Fit there by like, what was it, October, I think? And I was gone. And I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. And then I finally did high school. I liked high school, but then I was like, yeah, it's just not,
It's not.
it's not it for me. And all the things that you said, it's just not it for me. And I remember you even said that in the book too. It's like, at the end
Mhm.
of the day, you're working so much and working additional jobs to make
Mhm.
ends meet. And for what? You know what I mean? And then you go abroad and it's a whole other experience. You're still doing all the work, but you actually have time for yourself. And that is something that is like almost an anomaly as an educator to have real work life balance. And I was like,
Exactly.
I'm not doing this anymore. So I completely checked out. Like, I probably should have found another balance, probably should have found somewhere else to go like you did, but I was like, I'm checking out of this. I got to find something else to do. And here we are.
Completely understandable.
Man, oh my goodness. Okay, so you mentioned USA, of course, but Abu Dhabi and, well, UAE and Abuja, Nigeria. And that is, also the subtitle of your book. So what would you say is the big, like, talk about both of them, like, just compare them.
Both countries, they have some similarities, truthfully,
Hmm.
but they are vastly different, right? The
Yeah.
UAE, I felt like the UAE has a lot going on. So kind of think of it as I was in Abu Dhabi. So I was outside of Dubai, maybe just an hour drive away. And I would go
Yeah.
to Dubai often. A lot of people confuse the country. They'll call the country Dubai. Dubai is one of the Emirates. Think of
Right.
Emirates as states, right? So there's
Yep.
7 Emirates in the UAE. It's one of the states. I lived in Abu Dhabi, just an hour drive away in a different Emirate.
Mhm.
And so Abu Dhabi for me, I felt like it was very family friendly. Dubai was a little more touristy. Abu Dhabi was more like there's still lots to do, but very family friendly. Biggest shock for me was the weather. And mind you, I've lived in like warm climates my entire life. I was born and raised in Miami. So I was used to like hot climates and not really having seasons. But the
Yeah.
minute I stepped off that plane, immediately when I walked outside of that airport, I was like, oh wow, you're really in a
Did you have
desert.
glasses on? Did they fall up?
Yes, they did. They did.
That was that same first experience.
They absolutely did. I was like, oh, okay.
Ah,
I was like, I'm here. Yeah.
never had that happen before. That was the first time that ever happened to me. Same experience.
So the UAE was very different in terms of like just like conveniences and lots of things to do outside of work. Like I could find something to do every day of the week. Whether it was like they had ladies' nights out at most restaurants
Mm-hmm.
and bars almost every
Yes.
day. So you could
Yes.
literally go and drink for free.
Yes.
Amazing. Oh,
And wait,
lots
and let me
of
pause you right there real quick. That's the part that people don't really understand about the UAE. Like, people always sit around and say, oh, I'm not going to those Muslim countries and the Arabic countries because this and that. Y'all, I got my life in Abu Dhabi. You hear
fun.
me?
I had a lot of fun. I've actually
Yep.
I did not go out that much in the US compared to when I moved to the UAE. We went out all the time.
Sure.
We went out all the
Sure.
time. And I I can also attribute that because I had a proper work-life balance, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
when I was working as a teacher in the States, I was either going early in the morning or staying late into the evening sometimes just to get things done. In the UAE, I didn't do that. Rarely ever.
Mm.
I wasn't
Yeah.
staying after working hours. I was out. So like we
Yeah.
would go out quite often with coworkers, like, hey, you'd be like, do you want to go to, there was a bar like Appaloosa right across the street. Like, oh, you want to go get drinks there for happy hour? Hey, do you want to go here tonight? Like, there was always something to do. Brunches, boat parties. Loved a good boat party. That was exciting.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's a ton of black expats in the UAE. So there's a group for us, and there was always events and things popping up. So there was just lots to do, right?
Yes.
Nigeria was a little bit different. I wouldn't say there was as much to do as the UAE, but there was still things to do. Like you would think like, oh, well, you're not in Lagos, you're in Abuja. So it's not really like, it's kind of similar. Me being in Abuja is similar to Abu Dhabi in comparison to Lagos and Dubai, right? It's like you're not in
Gotcha.
the like
Okay.
really trendy part where it's like a lot of tourists and parties all the time, but
Right.
you're still close by, right? And it's just more family friendly, but there is still things to do. Even in Nigeria, I went out quite often with coworkers. You would go to bush bars. I probably went to a bush bar one time after work with coworkers and maybe spent $5 total. And like, cause you could get drinks for less than 50 cents. So like,
Wow.
imagine the cost of living. My money went further
Right.
in Nigeria than it went in the UAE for sure. And nights out looked a lot different, but still
Okay.
had a lot of fun. And both
Yeah.
countries, both places for me, quite a large Muslim population, so very
Mhm.
friendly, very like religious, but still
Yeah.
not overly religious like people think though. That's the thing.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I honestly I loved my time in both, but very different.
So what would you say would be like the personality types of an educator going to either one? Like what would you say would be perfect for Nigeria, perfect for UAE?
I think for both, but especially for Nigeria, you can't go with your American mindset. Like, you really have to be more open-minded and learn that there's going to be a shift. Like, you don't have things like Amazon where you can just order something and it come in 1, 2 days.
Yeah.
That's not the case. A lot of the products that you probably use in the US, you're not finding them readily available in
Hmm.
Abuja. Do they
Yeah.
exist? Some of them do, yes. But
Yeah.
sometimes it takes you months to find it. And once you
Hmm.
find it, you want to clear the shelf because it'll be gone and
I would imagine.
you
I would
won't find it again for
imagine.
months. So like there are just little differences. Living in Abuja, or just in West Africa in general, there's tons of power outages. So most of the time, almost daily, sometimes even hourly, the power is going to go out. You get used to that. So just like how we're talking right now, I would be on FaceTime with friends and my lights would go off and I would keep talking and they would ask me, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "So why is everything dark?" I'm like, "The power just went off. It'll kick back on." And they're just like, "What?" It happens so frequently. You get used to that, right? But
Yeah.
some people like that would bother them. So there's just like Abuja, there's no seasons. You have rainy season and dry season. That's it. Like
Right.
traveling through the airport, everything's just different. And so
Yeah.
you just can't come in with your American mindset, like, and you kind of want to demand like a certain customer service or this or that. They will laugh in your face. Like, no.
I think that it has to be the hardest thing for people to really like adjust to, because even my first year out in Abu Dhabi, and that's all I have to compare it to, is what was that, 2010, and it wasn't really the norm yet for people to be teaching abroad unless it was Korea,
Uh,
and most people who taught abroad in Korea, they did that right after college. Abu Dhabi was bringing out like people who were nearing retirement, who had already been teaching. How many? I think I might have been teaching for maybe 5 or 6 years when I went out to Abu Dhabi. Like these were people who were pretty much in the mid career, but like beginning mid career to like mid career. Like one of my head of faculties my first year, she was retired. She was out there like, yeah,
okay.
I decided I wanted to come back and do some things. She's from Canada. She was cool, But my following year, when I became a head of faculty, like I had teachers on my staff that were like, yeah, I was teaching in America for 20 years and I decided to try this out. Like, what? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's interesting because there were some people that got out there with me and they did not last 30 days just because they could not have that open mindset. It was like, this is too much. They want it answered right away. And in Abu Dhabi, they'll tell you, inshallah, in a second. You'll be trying to
Exactly.
ask all these questions like, well, what do I do? And how do I, and just, and you have your whole to do list of things to do. And they will pick up their tea. They will sit back in that chair, adjust that, adjust, and inshallah.
Uh-huh.
And they're mad because you're used to people like jumping every time you have something to do, and that just was not it. And I think that triggered a lot of people. Like they felt like that was they were entitled to that kind of energy. And I felt like, well, you know what? This is teaching me to slow down. This is teaching me that like I don't really have to like be that about everything.
Mm,
And I think those years of my life definitely taught me to just kind of balance things out, just have some kind of pace. But if I did not have that open mind from the get go, I probably would have left within the first 30 days, like a whole lot of people. You know what I mean? What are some of like the personal things that you think like just the experience of teaching abroad just kind of helped you develop? I know for me, it was like what I shared, like just kind of slowing down and looking at things
yes.
differently. But what about you?
I agree with that. I think I became more open-minded. I think I
Hmm.
also learned like, so when I taught in the States, at some of the schools I worked at, things were like very black and white. Like, this is the curriculum, this is the pace, this is what we need to be doing. Boom, boom, boom. There was no room for flexibility. No
Yeah.
room for like, oh, well, my kids actually are not picking up on that quickly. It doesn't matter. Keep moving on. We have to, we have to follow this school calendar, school schedule, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like the complete opposite. Like, so from that, like, I'm so used to being told, like, what to do. Okay, teach this, teach that. They want things done this way. You have to follow what is that? Lucy Calkins curriculum,
Hmm.
verbatim and this and
Yeah.
that. I get to my school, it's like the complete opposite. They're like, no, like, there's no like, they're not serious about grading. They're like, what skills have they learned though?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
conferences are like student led. Let's put out some activities. What are you able to do? Can you tell your parents different things? It's not like I have to follow this Lucy Calkins curriculum like verbatim. They're like, oh, well, what do your kids need? What do they need at
Yeah.
this time? Like, if I also worked at the school in Abu Dhabi was play based and inquiry based. And that really opened my eyes up. The IB, it was an IB school. So I was teaching the PYP curriculum. It opened my eyes up to a whole new world. Like, truthfully, it just everything felt way more developmentally appropriate for the students in my classroom. I was teaching kindergarten at the time, and things just like clicked. It made sense. Like, okay,
Mm-mm.
well, things should still be play based at their age, right? There shouldn't be
Right.
a classroom of over 20 kids and one teacher. My first year in Abu Dhabi, it was me and two teaching assistants. Like, and they were both degreed as well. So it wasn't like it was just me with all of these kids trying to get all of these things done within a certain amount of time. No, the
Right.
schedule was flexible. My kids had recess 3 times a day. They had two
Nice.
specials a day. They took performing arts. They had cooking classes. They had swimming. Like, it was a very holistic view. So for me as an educator, it really changed my view on education. Like, oh, kids aren't supposed to be sitting at a desk for like 7, 8 hours a day. Like,
Right. Right.
that's not how things should be. Like, our
Right.
classrooms were like very open, and they could also move around from different classrooms within the pod. And there was like a main like area within the pod that we could also set up activities. It was a lot more free. It was very freeing. And I
Yeah.
remember I had one student, my first year there, his
Hmm.
name was Andres, and I remember talking to him, and like, he was only 5 years old. He spoke three languages fluently. Like, he spoke
Nice.
English, Spanish, and Arabic fluently. And he was just telling me about like his travels with his mom and dad
Yeah.
and his sister and where they were going. And I was like, this is actually incredible. Like, I have students from all over the world. And this little boy is 5. He's probably been to more countries than I have. He speaks three languages fluently. And like, he just likes building things with Legos, but he can tell you all about it. Like, it was just completely different than me teaching in the States. And yeah, sorry, I probably forgot your main question, but
No, I mean, no, that was it. That all ties in because, I mean, you think about how much theory there is out there, right? I think the most ironic thing for me is that I went and got my doctorate, did the whole special ed thing, like I was just going to go off and save the world. And I realized there's so much theory out there, constructivist theory, all of
mhm,
these things that are out there. And that's pretty much what you're talking about. All of these things that are out there that we just don't dive into. Everything is test, 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 that super like rigid structure that you talked about, and it just sucks the life out of the kids. It sucks the life out of you as an educator, but the thing is that there is more that exists that we just don't experience, we don't dip into. So I think my experience is very similar to that. I was with the public school, so it wasn't that open, but it was definitely a lot more open than what I was used to. And when I first started, I was just like, oh, okay, oh, we can just, it doesn't matter,
mhm,
you know, a lot like my second year there when I became the head of faculty and I was able to like kind of meet with my teachers and we would talk about like, okay, what do y'all want to do? Let's start this theme. And we were literally putting things together ourselves and
yeah,
everyone was able to bring their own experience to the table. And it was cool because here it is. I've got teachers from Canada, from the West Coast of the US, from
mhm,
the East Coast, from the South. I've got Australian teachers, New Zealand teachers, British. And it was just like everyone had all these dope ideas that we were just all throwing together and making something beautiful out of it. And I feel like that was never my experience. Just like you said, it was always, this is how you do things. Point A, point B. Oh, you didn't do it like this? Why not? Well, this and this. Oh, we don't want to hear the excuses. Is it an excuse or am I being a human being and dealing with another human
exactly.
being? Like, what's going on here? But it definitely showed me like that was not it. And I kind of started to feel after before going to Abu Dhabi, like that's it. Like this is how life is. It's just by the book. Like there is no win. The only way for you to get any kind of like I don't even know what the word would be, but like feel anything, feel any purpose for what you're
Mm,
doing is if you become, a higher position or if you do this and if you do that.
yeah,
And I feel like that's what kind of pushed me to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll get my doctorate. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. And it was all for naught because when all is said and done, the things that really mattered to me, especially after like studying, they just weren't happening. They were not
Mm-hmm.
happening at all. And I feel like that in itself just kind of was like, okay, either you can continue being part of the problem because you can see that they're not going to change, or
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out another route, another way of doing things, another way of just kind of like, using your gifts and call it a
Mm-hmm.
day. And I,
I
I went
agree.
plan B. Went with plan B.
And that's okay.
Oh my goodness. No, but that makes a lot of sense. Were there any moments though that you feel like I'm ready to go home? Like this.
Yes, because when I moved, I taught for like a few months before COVID actually hit. So I was in the
Oh,
UAE when COVID
okay.
hit.
Okay.
And the beginning of that was very rough for me because I I I don't know how things were done in the US. They weren't done like that in the UAE. The UAE was very strict. And so like when COVID first hit, you couldn't even leave your apartment, like couldn't leave your house. And so I was just like, all right, I'm in this country. And at that point, the apartment that I was in, my windows didn't even fully open. So I was like,
No.
I'm here in this apartment by myself in a new country. I have no family. I can't even open my windows all the way. I was like, this is a lot to take in. We had curfews, we had testing all the time. Like it was just, there was a lot going on. You had to schedule when you were going to the grocery store. Like I was just like, man, I want to get out this apartment so bad. That was rough until by the time like when things lightened up a little bit and we were allowed to leave our apartments for a certain window of time during the day. And one of my
Hmm.
coworkers, she was also from the US. She married, her husband is Moroccan and they had a baby. And she invited me over for dinner. And she was just like, you have to get out the house. You're by yourself. She's like, you're going to go crazy. And so like,
Yeah.
as my coworkers started like recognizing, oh, Tori's here by herself. It's not like she has a partner. She doesn't have any, like she also just moved here. We have to make sure she's okay. My
Yes.
vice principal would like call and check up on me every other day
Yeah.
just to make sure like,
Uh,
are you still sane? What do you need? Can
yeah.
I send you food, chocolate? Like, I'm like, I'm good. So that period of time was
Yeah.
really rough. But once I got past that, I was back to being okay. When I could interact with others, I
Yeah.
was fine.
Big part, I think, of COVID in general. But that's one thing that I loved also about teaching abroad is the community. It was so
Hmm.
easy to build community. Like I remember coming back and part of like, and then we talked about this briefly, like part of like my biggest frustration or I don't even know what word to call that either, but the I guess depression that I felt coming back to America was that there was no longer a community. And here it is now I'm around people that look like me, that know more about like just American life, whatever the case may be. So I should be good, right? But
Hmm.
no, like the community feel that I had in a different country was completely different than the community feel I had in my own country. And that was an eye opener. And I did not even realize that until I left. Like I felt good. Like those things were so easy. People would definitely check on you. They would, hey, we're going to such and such. Hey, we're going to Sri Lanka for the weekend. You want to come? Okay,
Uh-huh.
girl. Like, let me pack my backpack and come. Like, I mean, it was so simple, everything just felt like if someone was doing something, more than likely they're going to reach out to somebody else and say, hey, y'all want to come? And people they noticed people who were like by themselves a lot. They noticed people
Yeah.
who were not really engaging and they made sure to just kind of check in and I thought that was amazing. And I feel like when I was there, I did not recognize it as much as I did until I came back.
Yep.
And then I
Same.
was like, well, if you asked someone to
That's
go
it.
somewhere, they were coming. Like, hey, you
Yeah.
want to go to such and such? Okay, yeah. And it's 5 o'clock. Here they are. Hey, you ready? Yeah, girl, let's go. And we were there. Here at home, hey, you want to go to such and such at 5 o'clock? Yeah, girl. Girl, come at 4:59. Girl, I
Exactly.
just can't. Well, and it's like it is such it feels sad. It makes you feel sad. And I think that
Yeah.
first year that I came back, I was really sad for that particular
I'm
reason.
still struggling.
Yeah,
Still struggling because the sense
yeah,
of community, I didn't realize it, just like you were saying, I didn't realize it until after I left. Because in both the UAE and Nigeria, I could hit up any one of my coworkers or friends and be like, hey, do you want to go get groceries? We'll go
yeah,
grocery shopping together.
yeah.
In the UAE, we didn't even lock apartment doors. You could literally just pop up on friends like, hey, did you cook dinner? I would cook and share with others. You would have drinks at each other's places, movie nights, game nights, like
Yes.
all of the things. You would go out, just like you were saying, last minute trips. We would literally be like, hey, y'all want to go to Egypt next weekend? Like just anything. And we would, like, cause you could do
Yeah.
that,
Like,
right? Like it was insane. And so like I did one time in the teacher's lounge, we were like, hey, we have a break coming up for it was like 3 or 4 days. They were like, do you want to go
mhm.
to India? 11 of us ended up going. Like we were like, yes, let's do it. 11 of us got on a plane, went to India for like 3, 4 days and then came back. Like you could
I
do
love
things like that.
that. Oh, I miss that.
I can't get anyone to go with me to the movies. Like it, it's difficult. It's very
Right.
different being back home. That has been my biggest struggle this past year. Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like, okay, as American or Western world, the individualistic culture is a thing, right? So we all know that
Mhm.
we live in these very individualized cultures. But the reality is, you as an individual can go to another place and see other individuals from the same place that you're from, and suddenly we're a community.
Yes.
How does that work?
Right.
Because when we're home, we're the same people. So what's happening when we get abroad and we're like, all right, now I'll show up. Now I'll
Yeah.
invite. Now I'll get together. Like, what's the difference there? I think that's the thing that really threw me off. And you're right. Like, I feel like even though I have now been back longer than I was even over there, it's now been 10 years, right? I still struggle. There are still some days where I'm like, I wish I stayed. I wish I stayed in
Yes.
Abu Dhabi.
That is my thing. Like I was just messaging a group of 3 other expat friends from Nigeria and I was like, do this, y'all. Like, we would just after school be like, hey, do we want to message in the faculty chat? Does anyone want to play volleyball? We have a whole volleyball game going on at 6, 7 p.m. in the evening with like
Love
12
that.
people just show up to play volleyball. We played flag football. We like just a bunch of different things. It wasn't always just like going out for drinks, right? You could literally just text a group and people would show up and you would have fun. Like it was really nice, but and I don't know where the disconnect is. I've
I
also am
don't know
still trying to
either.
figure it out. Like, dang, why is it not the same? Maybe because America is just this real like hustle culture and you're all like
Yeah.
you're working yourself to death.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, abroad, I did not. I had more of a work-life balance. So,
No, that's true. And so you feel like you have the time, as you say that, I also think about like the fact that when you're home and you have all of these different responsibilities, that does also take up like what time you have to connect with other people. And sometimes you're just like, I don't even want to do anything at all. I'm just going to sit here with this ice cream and this Netflix and that's it, which could be fine too. But it's like, it ends up being the norm as opposed to exactly what you just said. Hey, y'all want to go do XYZ, and you go and you do it and you have
mhm,
tons of fun just as well. It's a very interesting dynamic. And I feel like it is something that has always made me feel like I want to go teach abroad again. Like I'm still
mhm,
in a WhatsApp group that just sends out job openings in the
fair.
UAE, and I've been in it for about 3 years. I have not clicked on a single job. I have not applied to a single job. But if one day I have
If
just
one
had
day.
enough, I want to know that I have the access to say, you know what? Let me scroll this group and get out of here.
Uh-huh.
It's something else. I've also looked at other countries to see like if I were to teach abroad again, where else would I teach? And I think you
Mhm.
kind of inspired me with that because I like Abuja was never on my radar, right? Like as somewhere to teach.
Fair.
I just feel like, I was like, how'd you find that? So I'm like, let me see where else there are. So you actually inspired that in me. I still haven't been anywhere else, but it definitely at least planted a seed to be like, okay, these are still my possibilities because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, being an educator allows you to have the skill set to basically do anything anywhere. So it's just a matter of if at any point I reach my wit's end, there's always another option. There's always something else
Absolutely.
that I can go and do and just kind of figure it out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
All right. So we talked about some of the stuff that you like, but what are some things that you wish someone would have told you like before doing all of this?
Oh, before moving abroad, I didn't realize how important it would be for how much emphasis there would be placed on me to maintain my friendships and like relationships with family and stuff back home. when I moved abroad. I guess I didn't realize like it was all on me to like reach out always to like stay in contact with those back in
Yeah.
the States.
Yeah.
And that was really hard because, mind you, I was only coming home to the US about once a year during the summertime, and
Yeah.
sometimes not even. Sometimes I was like, actually, I want to live my
I'm in
best life.
trouble.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, because it's expensive coming back home for the summer, right?
Yeah.
And so, even like coming back home, and then people are like, oh, hey, I want to see you or whatever, but people are in different states or doing things. I'm like, listen, I just paid an arm and a leg to get back over here, and I sold all of my things before I left. I don't have a house anymore. I sold my townhouse, my car, everything. I think y'all understand, like, I'm not moving the same way as you are. And so it
Yeah.
just, like, the disconnect for me was very hard. Like,
Okay.
trying to maintain my friendships and everything still in the US when I moved
Yeah.
abroad, especially because of the time difference. Like, trying to jump on a
Yeah.
FaceTime, you have to plan that out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just even like, because at first, I think when I started working in the UAE, my work week was Sunday through Thursday, right? In the Middle East. So it's different from the US where people are working Monday through Friday. So, like,
Right.
every little detail, I was like, okay, I didn't realize how hard it would be to maintain those relationships back in the US when I moved
Yeah.
abroad. But I mean, the people that are still in my life, right? Those are the people that were going to be like the ones that lasted anyways. So it's doable. I just like really had to make sure, okay, make time for that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point too. I feel like the people who are going to be in your life, it's going to happen. They're going to make a way anyway. Even if you don't talk to
Hmm.
them every day, even if, 2 or 3 weeks go by, I think that this whole process of moving abroad, teaching abroad, living abroad actually does kind of narrow down who's really in your corner, because
Absolutely.
when it gets too hard, then you're like, okay, if it's this hard, then But
Definitely.
if there's a way, or if there's a will, there's a way, right? And it works out. For me, it was coming back and not having those same people that did show up every summer when I was coming back not show up anymore. Because
Mm,
now it's like, oh, okay, girl, I'll see you
you're
whenever.
back.
Yeah, when I would come back for the summer, especially the school that I taught at before I left, a lot of those teachers that I was close with, and just a lot of random people that I was close with, they, oh, you're back, you're in town. Oh yeah, we gotta connect, we gotta hang out. And we would go to lunch, brunch, dinner, drinks, whatever. It was
Hmm.
great, right? The year I came back, well, I came back in December. So the year I came back, the first couple months, of course, was, everyone's still in work mode. But when summer hit,
Hmm.
I'm thinking, okay, you know, I'll connect with a couple people, or, even on the weekends now, because I'm back. And
Hmm.
the answer always was, well, how long are you back for? And I'd be like, oh, I'm back for good now. Oh, okay, cool. And I still ain't seen them.
Amazing.
Still ain't seen them.
Correct.
So it was interesting, and that kind of goes back to my other point before, where it was just like, it was interesting how easy it was to build community when I was there, even when I would come back and be home for short periods of time.
Mm,
But then as soon as it was like easily taken for granted, you hardly saw these people anymore.
yeah.
That's the part that really was like, ah. So I think if anything for me on that end, if the only thing that I feel like I really needed to know before I left is to prepare for what it would be like coming back. And I
Yeah.
think that's why there's so many
That's a good
people
one.
that's still
Yes,
there.
absolutely. I agree with
Yeah.
that. Prepare for the repatriation because
Yes.
when I tell you it's rough, I see my expat friends still being back in the US. I
Huh?
think I have more like things planned with them to see them than I do with my friends that are based in the US. Like it's
Oh
actually
wow.
crazy. Like I have
Oh
friends from
wow.
China that are coming to see me in Philly this summer and staying for like a week and a half. A friend from Nigeria that's coming. A friend like we're planning a
That's
trip to go here.
wild.
So like it's just very interesting. My
It
relationships
is.
abroad, even though I talk to them not like super frequently anymore. Like we still, we have our group chats and we have a monthly Zoom that we do now. So we all
Yeah.
stay connected. But like
Yeah.
I still feel more connected with them than some of my friends here in the US that I
That is
barely like talk
wild.
to or see. So it's really interesting.
It is interesting. And I wonder if it's a
Yeah,
mindset thing, like
I
just
think so.
having the like courage, or the whatever, the oomph to get up and to move to another country already tells you that you have a different type of way of looking at life, right? So when it comes
Mm-hmm.
now time to like, oh, my homegirl's moving to a different state, I want to go see the state too. It is not even a second thought to go over there. Whereas
Exactly.
maybe there's still this barrier of fear that we're dealing with when you're talking about, just people who just have not traveled very often or who have not moved abroad and things like that. That's my guess. I don't know for sure, but that's my guess because I just feel like if you have the mindset to move abroad, then more than likely you're thinking and moving differently anyway. So
Absolutely.
it's easy for you to be like, oh, my girl going moving to Philly. I'm going over there too, and I'm spending a week. Now it's something else to do because you're so used to doing things anyway.
Exactly.
Like, one of my closest friends is actually someone that I met, and she's in the social club group, Danielle.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this week she had the shout out this week.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Danielle is actually the first person I met when I moved to the UAE. And she was just like the most amazing person ever. Like, we just always had a good time. Silly, crazy. We used to go to, it was some yacht club over there that had like every Tuesday was like a
Oh,
muscle
there's so
Tuesday.
many.
My gosh. So they had mussels every Tuesday in these big pots of white wine sauce. And we would go and drink Creek beer, like this like German beer, and eat these big pot of mussels. It was like the best time, and then I had surgery over there. I actually had fibroids removed over there.
Hmm.
And every day she was there with soup. Like she would come home from work, be dropped off, and we lived in those Abu Dhabi hotel apartments because the first group of people, like
Yes.
we were like, yeah. So we were lived in the Abu Dhabi hotel apartments. She was like on the 12th floor. I was like on 9, or I think vice versa. And every day, here's your soup. Here's your soup. How are you doing? You still alive in there? And so that kind of goes back to community because I don't
Hmm.
know. Like since then, I've had 2 surgeries right here in America. And it might be one person that even knows that. You know what I mean? Mainly
Yeah.
because the community doesn't feel as safe anymore. Like you don't want to tell people too much because, you don't know it's going to come up on Facebook 2 days later. It's just always something. But like, I remember that like my head of faculty at the time, she sent me this bouquet of edible arrangements. So she was like, I just want to make sure you have some fruits or something to eat. So I was eating fruits, it was great. But I remember that first year where it could have been difficult being so easy because of
Hmm.
Danielle. And
Hmm.
now all these years later, we're still buddies. Like that is still my homie, like that is
Hmm.
like so it's very interesting how like just that experience alone, you get to meet people who are more like-minded and have
Absolutely.
more of a safe aura or a safe energy than you probably would, just sitting at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book. And so, one
Yeah.
of the things that I loved is that you talked about being able to go from not having the work life balance, just like you talked about just now, not having that work life balance here and going to that. What do you think are some things outside of just the work life balance that you feel like really changed the way you looked at like life itself?
I would definitely say, okay, so having the work-life balance, moving abroad, but like the cultures that I experienced. So let me be clear as well, because a lot of people think when I say I taught abroad, they're like, so you taught like English to like Asian students in Vietnam or something. No, I worked at like an international school. So you have students from all over the world, right? Parents or whatever may be working in that country. They're attending your school.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize my first year teaching, I probably had kids from, it was over like 10 different countries represented in my classroom, well over 10. I can't even remember the number. And it was a small class of maybe 18 kids or something. Like almost everyone was from somewhere else and spoke multiple languages and everything. And I was like, this is crazy. Just in that alone, like meeting their parents and being invited out for like dinners and birthday parties and all these events at their houses or different things, I was like, oh, wow, like I learned so much about their cultures and the way that
Yeah.
they do things, how they interact with one another. Love that. I don't think that I would have gotten that experience just staying here in the US. Even though like I grew up in Miami, it is a melting pot. I just felt like once I moved abroad, people were also very welcoming. Like they welcomed you into their home. They're like, stop by anytime, right?
Yeah.
And so interacting with people from different cultures, even teachers. teachers on my team were from Ireland and the UK and Canada
Yeah.
and South Africa and just like
Yes.
right. So from a bunch of different places that I had never been to previously before teaching abroad, right? Like
Yeah.
never been to any of those places. So that was also very interesting.
Mhm.
And then living in Nigeria, the biggest thing for me was just learning cost of living. The US is just expensive for no reason. Like
Yes.
I might
Yes,
be
it
going a
is.
little bit off of your initial question, but
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
once I moved from the UAE to Nigeria and realized I could live off of 20% of my salary, of my monthly income,
Mm,
less than 20%, because I never even ran out of money. I was like, everything in the US is a scam. Like, what?
yes.
I was like, this
Yes.
is amazing. And I could just get fresh produce and stuff, walk right down the street and get it from the woman on
Yeah.
the corner. Like, it was just a completely different way of life. And what I was able to afford, like, I can afford a personal trainer, I can afford a housekeeper. Not once, this may sound really like bougie or snobby, but not once did I ever take out the trash or do my own laundry when I lived in Nigeria. Like, not
My
once,
gosh.
not one
But you know
time.
what? What you think about, like, it doesn't sound bougie or snobby at all. I feel like it's well deserved. It is well deserved for you to be able to have a salary, use it to however much you need, and then still be able to enjoy life and to enjoy a
Exactly.
quality of life that makes you feel like the service that you provide these kids, you're actually being compensated for it.
Yes. Like, and I feel well rested at the end of the day where I can go back to
Yes.
work and I'm like, oh, I can give you my best self. I actually think I was way more involved when in all of the things my students did when I taught abroad versus in the States. 'Cause in the States, I was burnt out, truthfully. But
Right.
like living abroad, like, okay, I have especially in Nigeria, I have my classes during the day, but I also like, I coached basketball. I was an advisor for MUN. I did international trips with my students. Like we went to Senegal, we went to Qatar, we went like I did so many things. I was a cheer coach during the off season. Like I did so much, but I enjoyed it too. Like I
I love
actually
that.
loved it. Like I loved the house challenge. I loved all of it. I didn't even teach high school. And my high schoolers would ask me to volunteer for their events. One of them was like a sleep in, a shut in that they did. I was like, oh, never do that again with high schoolers. But I
I think I remember
I
you talking
loved
about that. You was walking around hitting the kid. Y'all separate. Y'all be
I
y'all.
had a yardstick and I was like 3 feet apart. And I to this day love my kids even till now, like even being back in the US, the teachers at that school, I have some students that are on like a reward based system.
Mhm.
Kind of like similar, like something that they're using for PBIS. And like I had students that chose, oh, when I reach this amount of points, I want to have a FaceTime call with Miss McNeely. And so the teachers called me and they were like, hey, so and so chose the FaceTime call with you as one of their rewards. Can we actually do that? And I was like, yeah, we could. I don't mind. And sure enough, like I've had kids that are behaving much better even while I'm gone because these teachers have promised them a FaceTime call. And I had one and they were just like, when are you coming back? And I was like, listen, it doesn't leave my mind. I do want to move back abroad, trust me, but I love my job now. All of my teaching experience abroad and traveling and working with students from various ethnicities, cultural backgrounds, everything,
Yeah.
that has played a role in the job that I have now. Cause essentially I'm not in a traditional classroom anymore, right? I'm working for ultra high net worth families. Like India is very tight, but you would know the family that I'm working for, right? And
Okay.
so ultra high net worth, and I'm a nanny slash governess, like a private teacher for their children. And so now I just live and I travel with the family. Like where they go, I go. And I mean, I'm making more than I made teaching in the States and also teaching abroad. Not gonna lie, make more than I
Hey.
did teaching abroad too. So it's been a really good transition. But like all of my travel experience and knowing like the IB curriculum and inquiry based learning and play based learning, like I came back last summer. Mind you, I ended my contract with Nigeria, with the school in Nigeria, decided not to renew. And I moved
Mhm.
back without a job. But I was
Okay.
looking at things and I was like, you know what? Let me go back, like, let me go into private households because I think that's where my heart lies. I can make more of a connection with the kids and,
Yes.
still use
Yes.
teaching background and everything, I had jobs coming at me left and right. I'm not going to lie to you because of that international experience. So like I had to turn down jobs and I did 4 trials over the summer and was like flying all over. I flew to Puerto Rico, flew to Canada, flew to Florida for like jobs to meet with families. And I had multiple job offers. And I have my choice of one specifically. So
Hmm.
yeah, the one that I have right now, I love it. I'm still able to travel after the travel thing. The travel bug got me after moving abroad. I
Of
can't let
course,
it
of
go now,
course.
right? So my current work schedule is perfect for
Hmm.
that because I work a rotational schedule. I work 2 weeks on,
Hmm.
2 weeks off. So I'm only
Nice.
working half the year. So the weeks that I'm off, I want to travel and do things and I still can,
Absolutely.
right? I have the time and the finances to do that. So
Yeah.
all of the international experience abroad really did help me secure a job once I moved back to the US. Like they were like, "What?" Still to this day, my bosses ask me, "Wait, have you been to like?" She was like, "Oh, my mom's going to Sri Lanka," and I was like, "I went there. Make sure she does this." She was like, "You've been there too?" It's just like it's really interesting. Or anytime she introduced me to like friends or anyone coming over, she's like, "This is Tori and she taught abroad and she did this." And I'm just like, "Okay." Like, yes, I did. That's me.
I love that. I love that. I didn't
Uh-huh.
even think about like non-traditional types of educational roles. I think, I just came back and just kind of was trying to figure it out. And the only thing that was on my mind was like, okay, what school system should I work for?
Mm,
As opposed to like what's the best one? Now I could choose. As opposed to like what other thing can I do?
yeah,
So I love that you did that. And I think that is part of like what having these multiple experiences do. It just forces you
absolutely.
to think about things differently. And sometimes you still miss the mark. Like I missed the mark on that one. I was like, that's an amazing idea. You know what I mean? Because it gives you the opportunity to keep moving and growing in the
Mm-hmm.
way that you are, without kind of feeling like, oh, I'm trying to go back and nah, I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. But I think it's a really cool opportunity to do things differently that we just don't always think about. So I was like, that
Absolutely.
is pretty dope. That's
Yeah.
that's really dope.
Thank you.
So, so so before we close up, what advice would you give a teacher who is right on the cusp, right? They want to teach abroad, they want this brand new experience, but they're hesitant, they're not sure. I feel like you were probably the only one who said something like, "Hey, I'm interested. Like, what was your experience like?" And we had a
Mhm.
conversation. And like I said, next thing you know, you were on Facebook with suitcases. Like, I'm out. But a lot of other people reached out. Like, we had phone calls, we had tea, or coffee rather. I'm saying tea like I'm still in Abu Dhabi. Coffee rather. We sat and we talked about it, and they still here looking at me. So it's just like, no, but you did. So what would your advice be to someone who's like, I want to do this, but
I would say to really evaluate your why. Like,
mm,
even like your teaching why. Why are you a teacher? And also, what do you want to gain from moving abroad? Because for me, I would say I would evaluate my quality of life here in the US if I were to continue
mm,
teaching. My quality of life wasn't great. Do you have a proper work-life balance? Do you have time for self-care? Are you just living to work? Like you're working during the school year and also summer school and maybe a summer camp too and everything? Or do you actually just
mm.
want to like reclaim your time? Right?
Right, right.
So I would say to really think about your why, because truthfully, you can't go wrong with teaching abroad. Even if you decide, you know what, I'm just going to do a little 2 year contract to see how things go, put your stuff in storage. I promise you, you're still going to be able to afford it because you're making a tax free salary.
Hmm.
Your accommodation is paid for and provided. In certain countries, like in Nigeria, didn't pay not one bill. I didn't pay for utilities. I didn't pay for Wi-Fi. I didn't pay nothing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was living off of less than 20% of my salary and saving all the rest. I didn't know what a Roth IRA was or a 401k or anything prior to moving abroad. I was like, I didn't have the extra money to do that. Now I feel way more set up in terms of retirement just from teaching abroad for 5 years than I did teaching in the States. So
Love
just
that.
evaluating your why and where do you want to see yourself in the next few years? Because you don't have to stay abroad forever. Like I have
Right.
plenty of friends that are still abroad. They love it.
Yeah.
They don't want to
Yeah.
come back, which fully understand. I get it, especially with this current administration. I get it. But
Mhm.
even if you just want to say, oh, I just want to step my toe in, let me see how it is, I highly encourage you to do so. I
Yes.
really don't think you'll regret it. And if you have to break a contract and come back, you can do that at any time. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. It really is okay. But I do think everyone should experience living abroad at some point in your life because the mindset shift is like it's worth it. It
I
really
so
is worth
agree.
it.
I so
And I
agree with
think
that.
quality of life will improve if you move
Oh,
abroad.
yes.
Just saying.
Oh my gosh. I 10 times agree with that, and at the end of the day, like just being able to have that mindset shift that you talked about, like being able
Hmm.
to have that and actually visualize a better life for yourself or just a different life for yourself is
Hmm.
mind blowing. Being able to be like, you know what? Things don't have to look a certain way. I don't have to do things the way people tell me they have to be done. I can
Absolutely.
actually create a life that I want for myself. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so I love that. Great, great advice. Great advice.
Absolutely. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. Thank you so much. It was so good chatting with you. I know we're always like on social media, like, hey girl. But it was really nice, like just chatting with you and just connecting with you again. This was lovely. I'm so proud
This
of you and
was
all the
great.
amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
trying. I'm really trying. And also one last thing, if you're going to live abroad, teach abroad, your age really is not I wouldn't let that stop you because I've met teachers that are well into like their 50s that decided, "Oh, I'm going to go teach abroad." And they're doing it. Like even
Yeah.
the a kindergarten teacher at my last school, I think she moved abroad when she was 60 and she's been there for a few years and now she's like, "Now I can move back to the US if I want to or I may move to another country." Like your age or the fact that maybe you have kids, if you have custody of your children, if your partner agrees, whatever the case is, take them with you. When I tell you most schools will allow your children to attend if you're working there too, do it. Don't let that stop
Yes.
you. That's not a reason. It's just really
Yes.
like, do you want to make the jump, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I just encourage everyone to do it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Cause my head of faculty, my first year, she had retired already in Canada and was
Hmm.
like, all right, well, let me try this out, So absolutely, whether you're right out of college or, right out of retirement, you're absolutely right. A lot of times it seems like, okay, this is something that single women should do, but you're right. A lot of families get out
Hmm.
there and they have an amazing,
Yeah.
like,
I worked
like,
with tons of families. I also worked with single moms that moved abroad with their kids because I've had some people reach out to me while I'm a single mom. Now, I don't know the case of your custody situation, but I can tell you, I also had friends that were single moms that enjoyed their life abroad and that are still
yeah.
abroad, actually. And the quality of life for them and their kids significantly improved, right? So,
I love
yeah.
that. I love that. And that's the key, quality of life. Quality
Mhm.
of life. Like I don't think people realize how like bare minimum, bare bones, whatever you want to call it, the life, the quality of life that many of us have experienced before actually recognizing that there's so much more out there.
Mhm.
My goodness. Well, Tori, thank you so much. This was a great, great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Well, y'all, thank you so much for tuning into the Traveling Black Women podcast. Make sure you go onto my website and check out Tori's book, Teaching Abroad from Abu Dhabi to Abuja. If you are looking to teach abroad, this is a guide that will really outline everything that you need. And I mean, then you've got this podcast so you can see and hear what we're actually saying, right? And then feel free to send us messages. Let us know what
Mhm.
your experience is like. Ask us a question. We're here. So thank you for tuning in and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.